Hello everybody, this is Bitcoin Macro, and on this video guys, I want to give you a quick update on what's going on in the markets, some about Bitcoin, some about Ethereum, just give you a little bit of data where I think we are right now, and just talk a little bit about some stuff regarding traditional markets as well, a little bit of stock indices, because I do believe it's kind of good for me to just give you guys some updates every now and then, because it's kind of important to see where the market is as a whole rather than, just Bitcoin or Ethereum or any coin individually. Because I will come out, I will give you all that information about so many different coins, but I do see a little bit of a problem with a lot of people. The minute they watch a video, let's say something good about the coin, they get overhyped and they go buy a lot of stuff. And I usually always outline the risks, even though I might be bullish. But I do have to say a few things before I get into my analysis. First of all, to whoever is watching this, and I will try to do this more often, when somebody makes a video, first of all, he, him, her, whoever, they are not your financial advisor. Not only they are not your financial advisor, but you asking them afterwards whether this coin is going to go up or whether you still think the coin is going to go up, it's irrelevant to you. You should have your own plan. These people might not know what they are saying. You just watched a YouTube video. You don't even know that person. You don't know me. You don't know anybody else who's making those videos, at least not personally. And at the same time, they don't know. Nobody has a crystal ball in this market. So you have to be very, very careful with what you're buying, how you're buying it, why you're buying it, and most of all, to manage risk. I got so many people asking me about Mirror Protocol because what happened was a lot of people bought right after the first listing, right after the pump. Okay, so because they bought, let's say at $12, then when the price was going down, they started panicking and they bought quite a lot. So they start asking me questions whether I think it's going to go back to $12, because what they were thinking was, oh, at least I can take my money back. But from going to 12 down to 10, it's not even a 20% drop. So if you're worried with a 10%, 20% drop, then there is a problem. There is a big problem, guys. And that problem is that you didn't manage your risk properly. You over-invested in that coin. You took a trade, a very bad trade that you shouldn't have taken. So be very, very careful with how you're betting your money. Okay, they're your money, they're not my money, it's nobody else's money, it's your money. So if you don't do your proper analysis, don't go on YouTube and try and find confirmation. That's called confirmation bias, because you're looking at what other people are saying to confirm your views, to feel safe that, okay, that coin is going to go up. But what if the market goes down? That coin might be perfect, that coin might go up eventually, but if everything else corrects, that coin is bound to correct as well. Very few coins escape the forces of the market. If Bitcoin and Ethereum are dumping massively, what do you think is going to happen to other coins? 99% of the other coins, maybe 95% of the other coins are going to go down. So it's just some stuff that you need to be aware of, guys. Just don't ask me anything when it comes to I put out the ideas. These are just for educational purposes only and nothing else. So having said all that, let's come and watch what BTC is doing. So at the moment, BTC has been behaving pretty nicely because for many reasons, like I've mentioned in the past, there were several models like the stock to flow or the 463-day moving average, the NVT price, the golden ratio multiplier. There was also this high volume profile, high volume node. At the time, it was almost the same as this one, and I do believe there was some other stuff that I probably forget right now. And also we finally broke below the 50-day moving average, which was touched twice perfectly. And usually when we see two perfect touches on the 50-day moving average, we know that it will eventually break. So we had the trap, we came down to this nice support, we had a nice swing failure pattern right here, and right now we're just getting into this zone. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we get down to, let's say, 51. I mentioned that before as well. I think it would be a decent opportunity to buy the dip. I don't really believe we're going to go lower, because if we go to 47 again, I do believe we're going to go much lower after that. Now, we are slowly closing above this average price. So essentially what this level is, the 56.5, is the most traded price, and it's actually a very key price because it's both the monthly pivot, it's also the 50-day moving average, pretty much the same price, and the high volume node. So it's the most traded price. So it's both the average price of the last 50 days, let's say, or a bit less, but also it is the average price since the 20th of February, or at least, excuse me, the most traded price. And also that shows, that tells us a lot of stuff. So being above this, it means you're bullish. Being below it, it's kind of like we're bearish. Now, there is no perfect way to talk about this, but at least that's what I could say right now. So at the moment, we're in this like little resistance zone because in the past the price has been rejected here. We had a very, very big drop in this area, and it's kind of tricky because let's say when I look at this from the standpoint of the CME futures, we are in a gap right now. Okay, so the price is trying to push into the gap. It's trying to get into this area right now. But look at what happened. We had one gap in this area and then we opened another one. So as the price tries to push above this, it gets a little tricky because the price is trying to get into a double gap. Like half of it has been probably filled, I should say. Half of the gap is filled. Maybe you can consider all of it filled, but I do believe it's going to struggle a little bit to go through it. And if it goes through it, I do believe eventually it will pull back down. So let's say we get an open at 61k or 62k. I do expect the price to kind of pull back a little bit and then go higher, if it goes higher, of course. So in terms of longs, I do believe the market is over leveraged right now. The long short ratio on Bitfinex is about 50-1, maybe 40-1, something like it, because there are pretty much no shorts left. There are literally 600 Bitcoin short on Bitfinex, while there are about 33.5 thousand longs. That's a huge difference, guys. That's a massive difference. Okay. So when I see that, when I see the OKX longs being pretty much at a 2-3 month high, when I see the longs here, they're not as high on Binance. When I look at this chart, the long shorts on the accounts were still below some key peaks right here, but there were some peaks. Nevertheless, there were like some relatively high areas where we did get some pullbacks. Now, they're not like that massive, they're not that important, especially because we had a major reset in funding. We hit some pretty negative values. Again, it all comes back down to that correction being very, very healthy. And so far, we have seen that this rally has been spot driven rather than driven by derivatives. So it's real organic growth. And we have seen a lot of growth in alts as well. However, that market got a little bit overheated, and I'm going to talk about it fairly soon as well. So I'm going to try and keep this one brief, guys. I do believe that right now we're about to get in this stage. So I do believe there's probably, let's say, anywhere from 2 weeks to 1.5 months of alt season, because we're going to get into that last final stage. That was the summer alt season. Clearly, we're over 4 months right now, whereas that alt season lasted 3.5 months, and it was probably 1/3 of the size of this alt season. So clearly, at least in Bitcoin terms, this alt season has been 3 times larger than that alt season. Okay, massive difference. So of course, there are a lot of things that we can expect still, because I do believe there is more growth, but that doesn't mean we won't get a correction first, or at least alts won't correct versus Bitcoin. Now let's watch Ethereum for a little bit, just see what it's doing in terms of USD. And in my opinion, Ethereum had a very, very clean rise. It retested its previous all-time high. That was the whole zone. It retested it perfectly, started forming a nice uptrend right there. Retested this key high several times. I was surprised it didn't break lower, but I do believe the fundamentals of Ethereum due to the Berlin hard fork helped a lot. EIP 1559 is coming as well, which is going to make Ethereum deflationary or disinflationary, I should say. And that's a pretty big story, guys, because both fees dropped a lot, and we have the Ethereum ETFs, we have the CME futures. So we had a fairly large correction for Ethereum, at least versus Bitcoin back then, because for many reasons I've explained before, what happened to Ethereum was we had the CME futures launch, we had high fees, we had the rise of competition, we had the Tesla pump, so that also made Ethereum correct a little faster. And what happened to Ethereum was Ethereum came back to its most traded price, which was this one, which is this level. Like historically, this is actually the most traded price if we look, let's say, back to 2017, 2018. Like if we look at the history, again, we've had this perfect bottom right there as the price was going higher. We've had like Ethereum close above these key highs. Now Ethereum clearly could pull back all the way, could come all the way back down to this area at some point. But I do believe that so far it's been going higher very nicely. And the only, let's say, issue that I have is that it just managed to cover this area. So usually after, let's say, such an increase like we saw in this area, pretty much the same drop was the same increase. It's pretty nicely cyclical, this move, and I do believe there's more upside. But usually after Ethereum has gone up, let's say by 100%, it usually tends to pull back, okay? So we are kind of in this stage now. This was also a bit larger. It came all the way up to the monthly pivot. It has also gone way above the weekly pivot. It was gone way above the R3, the yearly pivot. So I do believe at least Ethereum might pull back down to this area, at least versus Bitcoin, because Bitcoin might be the only one rallying, okay? This is something that I mentioned yesterday, very early on before the correction. I think Bitcoin was about 57K, 56K. And I was like, look, Bitcoin might go up and that could really destroy alts for a bit. I made a thread about 10 hours ago. It was before Bitcoin started going up to 59.5K. So again, guys, remember that you can come on Twitter, you can come on Telegram, you can come on TradingView to get my updates, because that's where I share most of my stuff. That was just a little break to add that thing, because many times I do mention most of the things in there, okay? So again, if you just look at this, it's just pretty much the same. Of course, these are getting a bit longer now. It all depends from where you take the point before the correction occurs. The increases are getting a bit longer, a bit larger. Now, of course, you could have taken this one from down there. But the point is that once you get up to that level, Ethereum usually corrects versus Bitcoin. Plus, we are in that bit of resistance zone because we just went all the way up to a very, very important area. So we filled that void, we filled this void, which is essentially what I mean is we retested some breakdowns that were very sharp. The market never got the opportunity to come back there. So taking a break after such an increase wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, it could come all the way up here and have maybe a little push like this one, where it had that sort of SFP right there. So it tried to push a bit higher after having a correction, then failed, and then we might get a dip potentially all the way down to this area right here, because that's where the big increase started. So if Bitcoin rallies on its own, I wouldn't be surprised if Ethereum pulls back a bit, because remember, guys, Bitcoin has been stuck for nearly 2.5 months or more, maybe even 3 months. So all that volatility, all that money that has gotten into alts will eventually start trickling back into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin will eventually rally on its own. Yes, I do believe Ethereum could flip Bitcoin this year or maybe next year, but for now, we have to be honest with ourselves and realize that Bitcoin is still the king of the market. At some point, we will get an ETF, and a lot of the money that goes into altcoins will go back into Bitcoin, because remember, a lot of the Bitcoins that have moved, guys, they have gotten out of Bitcoin, but they didn't all sell to get into cash. a lot of those people that have been selling to get out. This is a very, very key difference. It's something that people need to realize, because when you start thinking that all these people have left, let's say the market, yes, of course, maybe half the people have sold and have gotten out of the crypto market. But I do believe that most of them, at least, or a big portion of them, have gotten out of Bitcoin into alt and would look to get back into Bitcoin at some point. Again, remember, at least initially, or at least to an extent, alts are used to make more Bitcoin or more Ethereum, which are the kings of the market. Maybe Ethereum does become the king of the market. I don't think that would last very long, but it is something that can happen. Okay, so I do believe that, because we have had this inverse head and shoulders, I've talked about this one extensively. I do believe eventually we could pull back to that breakout zone and then go much higher. I do believe it would be very healthy. And then for me, this is a key area that I do believe we could play a little bit in here, chop a little bit there, then maybe come all the way up there and then go lower. So that's my update, guys, for Ethereum and Bitcoin. And then I'm just gonna talk about, some traditional markets for about a minute. So the US dollar isn't doing very well. We had the non-farm payroll report. The jobs number were terrible, and that's why, because they're gonna do more stimulus and more of that stuff, the dollar fell substantially. Okay, so it had a very nice pullback for the euro. It came all the way down to the yearly pivot, very healthy, very nice and healthy. We've had the British pound, slow, nice uptrend. It's still in an uptrend. It's been doing very, very well. It's doing fantastic. Okay, it's in an uptrend. It just retested some very key important highs. We've seen this pattern even with alts, where you have those equal highs, where you make lower lows, but at some point you start breaking those highs. And in my opinion, because it also has almost those equal highs here as well, there's going to be a breakout eventually, and we're going to go all the way up there. So overall, if I would just look at the dollar in general, I do believe the dollar is going to break lower. It's still in a bull market. We did have a little bit of a trap here. Okay, a deviation, you can call it whatever you want, because initially most people, myself included, expected 92 to hold the price down. It did have a little push higher, but then it has fallen again. And I do believe that 81 is going to come. And if 81 is coming and crypto is where it is now, just imagine this, guys. If the dollar falls, the risk on sentiment is going to get even larger. Things are going to be even better. There's going to be more money printing and all that stuff. And in my opinion, if we go down there, the crypto market is going to go up 5x. Because if up until now, we've had a 13% drop, and with a 13% drop, cryptos have gone up, or at least the market as a whole, by 20x, or maybe even 25x, depending on how you see, if you want to include altcoins, actually whatever, then even like 30x, 40x in just that drop. And of course, the dollar going down is very important in the risk on sentiment. So if it drops another 9%, would you not expect the market to go up by 5 or 10x from here? So these are things that we need to be aware of, because again, even gold is breaking out right now. I don't know how gold is going to do. Even silver is looking a lot better at the moment. I thought they weren't going to do very, very well, but they are doing pretty well, at least for, their standards, for the precious metal standards, because iron ore is doing very well. Metals are doing very well. And in my opinion, even copper has been doing very well, which has put actually a new high. So copper is making a new all-time high, guys, here. And when you make a new all-time high, that's pretty significant. And finally, oil as well is going to break out, in my opinion. These patterns don't really last long. When you have that sort of cap and handle kind of formation after such a massive capitulation, it means that, all longs were wiped. We had the cycle lows for oil, We did hit the lowest number, we went negative. A lot of production has been cut. Demand is coming back online. So, people will want to travel, and that will be a massive boost for oil. The S&P 500 making new all-time highs again. It's looking very, very clean. Pullbacks are being bought very quickly. The issues with the taxation have gone away a little bit because they're going to be offset with money printing. The Russell is looking much better than the last time I talked about that stuff. The Nikkei as well. DAX, same story. Had a nice pullback, nice consolidation. Volatility is going down as well. The VIX is going lower. Now bonds are in that little weird state where they might go higher, but yields might go higher, bond yields lower, but there will still be that sort of weird deflationary and inflationary pressures at the same time, which tells me that Bitcoin has much higher to go because there's going to be more money printing, more risk on, and at least for now, all staff agree. So if stocks are bullish, commodities are bullish, and dollar is bearish, in my opinion, that's the best setup for crypto, which has already been trending very, very nicely and could get an even bigger boost. But now the question is, will it be Bitcoin rallying alone, or will it be like everything rallying? Because if I just look at this final chart, alts have had a little pullback today, and last 2 days have been a little rough for alts. Nothing spectacular, but we're still in that kind of little uptrend. But it is a little weird because I do expect at some point another 16% correction versus Bitcoin, because we have had several of those and it's been a while since we had one, and that tells me that eventually one of those corrections is going to come back. Okay, so that's it from me, guys. Once again, remember, like, subscribe, comment, share the video. Just let me know what you think on the comment section down below. Negative, positive, whatever you want to say. If you want me to look at something specific and mention it on my videos, I do my best to try and read all your comments and reply as well whenever I can. So once again, remember, you can follow me on Twitter, you can follow me on Telegram, you can follow me on TradingView. And that's it from me, guys. Good luck with your trading, and I'll see you on the next one.